Recording from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Welcome to the Restoration Group podcast, where we are sometimes silly, but always serious about investing in Oklahoma City leaders who desire to integrate their Christian faith into their business. I am your host, Clay Steves. Today, I am joined by my co-host, Michael Mead, and our guest, Chelsi LeBarre. Chelsi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here, excited to share a little bit of my story and hopeful that it touches someone.
Based off of the little bits of interaction we've had ahead of time, I've got little doubt that it will, and the joy that you bring and even the smile you're just giving us right now. All right, so here's my formal bio. Here's our formal bio for Chelsi to share it with everybody. Currently navigating life as a mother, wife, and audacious woman who strives to center joy in everything she touches. Chelsi wears many hats, but whatever mode she is in, you can bet intentional connection is at the core. Her passion is creating spaces for Black women to share joy, for women to feel empowered, for mothers to feel supported, and for all to feel welcome. Her career goals are simple. She wants to do work that directly impacts the lives of others. She wants to see people thrive in their God-given talents and to help them on the journey in any way that she can. That's what I'm talking about. Chelsi, this is going to be great. Thanks for being here.
I've just got to say, I've got to say from the top, my wife is a friend of Chelsi's, and I'm not just saying this to you, Chelsi. It's true. There's not many people in our world that she comes home and is just like, you've got to meet this person. What her and her husband are doing in Oklahoma City is amazing. And she, we said before the recording that Kimberly's kind of a fangirl of yours, but she also views you as a friend. And it's just a gift to me to get to spend this time with you. And I have heard a lot about you and I'm excited to learn more.
Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I definitely feel the same. I feel like one of the best things about being an entrepreneur is the people that I meet. And meeting Kimberly, I continue to say that it's fully God, and she has been a blessing. What she does is a blessing. So I'm always blessed to just connect and get to know more about the people doing things. And Oklahoma City has so many people doing amazing things. So
Come on.
I'm grateful to be part of the podcast, and I am excited to see all the features that you all end up doing so that I can know more about who's doing what in our city.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, let's start here. Tell us about your businesses. And I said plural, so tell us about your businesses. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So I am a serial entrepreneur. Depending on what season I am in, I may have a new business. So as I said in my bio, I truly seek to invest and pour into people in whatever talents that God has placed in my heart. And from the time that I was in college, I've always steered my career around the ability to do all of the things that I am good at in a way that pours into my community and pours from my heart. I told God a long time ago, like, if I'm going to be doing stuff, make it make sense. Like, I don't want to be behind a desk making somebody a bunch of money. If I'm going to be working, I want it to mean something and change people's lives. And that is how I give to the kingdom of God. Of course, we'll talk more about that. But so my first business that I started was a photography business. So I started that as my hashtag side hustle. And that kind of grew and grew. And I still function in that business. So I do a wedding and portrait photography. And as I have grown, that has continued to shift and evolve in the different phases of my life. I started it when I was, a single girl in college who just needed some extra money. And I was really good at taking pictures. So it started there. But as I grew, it became this thing where if I'm behind the camera and a woman is in front of me, I want her to feel loved. I want her to feel confident. I want her to love everything about herself, and not come to me saying, hey, so I'm not good at taking pictures and I don't want to look, X pounds. Can you make me look skinnier? And all of those things. And one of the things that I have always prayed is that send me the ones that need me. Send me the clients that need to be feel seen and loved but for who they are, not what they produce, not the size that they wear, all of those things. So from that business grew my heart to really impact my clients and make it more than a money-making mission, but really growing in spirit and just connecting with people. So from there, I got my MBA. And again, I found myself in a place where my full-time job, I was in a box and I was only able to flex a small portion of what my heart has always been. And so I found myself bored. I was bored all the time. And I was like, yeah, I make good money, but like I get home and I still have a need to do more. And there's not enough time in the day for me to feel like I'm doing enough. Now my therapist would call that something else, but for me,
we'll save that. We'll save that for a different episode. That's a different episode.
Right.
Is it?
But for me, I felt like it was just God really calling me to more impactful work. And so I started my second side hustle of having Chelsi Co., which functions as a business strategy consulting business. So helping people start their businesses, develop different systems and strategies and what do I charge? What are my services? All of those things, and helping them have a strong foundation. And one of the biggest drivers for that was when I was in class, when I was getting my MBA, part of the research that I came across was that Black women are the highest educated population in the US. We also have the highest rate of educational debt. We start the most businesses per capita per year, and we also fail the most businesses. So for me as a Black woman yes.
Wow.
So for me as a Black woman getting my MBA, 1, hello privilege. 2, what does this mean? Like, am I just a person that got this and yay for me? Or am I going to use that as a catalyst to share that education? So I've always believed that, a rising tide lifts all boats. And so I want to leverage that education that I received so that people who don't have $40,000 to go blow on, an MBA can still receive that. And we all deserve that sort of education so that our businesses can be prosperous. So that's what led me to starting Chelsi Co. In 2020, some crazy event happened.
Yes.
And
yes, it did.
It was pretty impactful. But in 2020, I actually got married 8 or 9 days after Oklahoma City shut down.
Whoa.
And that November, I found out I was pregnant. So between March and November, newlywed, in quarantine, getting to know my husband, having lived by myself for 8 years, and then I'm stuck in a house with this man.
Us men, we're so simple. Yes,
it was quite different. It was an experience. So we're, in the process of buying a house. We were like, we need more room. We can't be in this 900 square foot rental home anymore. We love each other. We want to stay married. So we are in November of 2020, trying to find a house and grab those interest rates while they were still low.
Come on.
And I find out I'm pregnant. So I'm like, okay, well, this kind of changes some of the must-haves for our house, because we thought we were 3 years out from having our first child. So we get our house, move in. Suddenly we get a text 3 days before Christmas and y'all can move in tomorrow. So we were like, okay, so we're moving in Christmas Eve. Yes. So we move into our new home. And then a week after moving into that house, I said, you know what? I can't go back to work. I can't do it. I have to be here for my daughter. And that has been, when I was 14, I made a decision that I would be working for myself and my children would be with me every day. I would not do traditional daycare. Um, for me, as the youngest of 7, I was the child who my mom went back to school, back to work on. And of course, this is nothing against my mom. My mom is amazing. She did things that I can't even fathom doing, like going back to school with 7 kids at home and working overnight and getting a bachelor's and a master's.
Wow.
With 7 kids at home. But I told myself I would do that first and then have children so that I can be at home with my children. And still, you know, with it being 2023 now, we have to be a dual income home. So what does that look like if I still want to be an at-home mom? So that's where I decided I would work full-time for myself. I would launch these businesses full-time. And I told God, I said, this is a 16-year, well, at the time, 14-year prophecy that you gave me. So you're going to have to make it work because I don't see it, sir. I don't see it.
You're going to have to come in here.
Bills are billing.
You're going to have to come in here.
Yes, because the bills are billing and the money is not moneying. So I was just like, you're going to have to come with it because I don't know how it's going to work. But here I am walking out in faith and I'm just going to do the thing because you put this on my heart. So that's when that shift happened for me. We welcomed our daughter, our firstborn, in May of 2021. In June of 2021 is when I started out officially full-time for myself. So as my postpartum journey, you know, I went through those things and trying to figure out, like, how do I do this dance of caring for myself, caring for these littles, and then providing for my household in conjunction with my husband, of course. And through that process, God placed heavily on my heart, you're meant to go through this so that you can walk other women through that. So in that process, my business shifted again to be what it is now, where I seek to support women who are mothers wanting to come out of the traditional workplace and work for themselves and be with their children. I know it's not for everyone, but I do know that there is a rise in that want for a lot of people in our generation. So I want to be that person that not only lives that out and shows other mothers, but also walks hand in hand with them and says, this is possible. You can do this for this season. And for me, it really is a season. I don't know what it looks like, you know, in 4 years when my kids are old enough to go off to school and all of those things. But for now, I know that I only have babies once and I'm not missing that. I'm not missing that for the sake of someone's company who doesn't care about me. You know, they can say all of that, but at the end of the day, I'm not asking nobody permission to be at home with my kids when they're sick 10 days a year. 10 days a year? We use that by end of February.
Like the last week.
No,
legit.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was just not, it wasn't a choice for me. It wasn't an option. So, yeah, I think that answers your question. I kind of just stepped into that way. And so as far as my faith being infused in that, it's integrated in me, period. So it wasn't even a thought, you know. Who we are bleeds from our heart, and my heart is God's. So I might not enter every room saying that I'm a woman of faith, just like I don't enter every room and tell people that I'm Black.
It's just who you are. It just is who you are. That's right. That's right.
So, my prayer is to always impact people in the way that they know that there's something different about me. And if they feel led to ask why, then let that be the bridge. But at the end of the day, I just want to show people love because that's what God called me to do.
Yeah, that's so good.
Right.
Yeah. So we're going to dive a little bit more into the faith integration here in a second, but I want to put a bookmark in that really quick. And one of the other businesses I know you have is your studio. Is it Capel Studios? Am I saying that right?
Pele.
Pele
Studios. And,
I missed it bad.
That is from the Pele tribe. Well, there is a K, so it's a little confusing. And I don't think you speak West African language, so that could be why.
Accurate.
But yes, my father is from Liberia. My grandfather immigrated here in the early, I don't know, like initially in the 50s and again in the 70s. So late 70s, early 80s is when they brought the family over finally and didn't return. But yes, we are from the Pele tribe of Liberia. And I lost my grandfather 4 summers ago. And that was my first time losing someone in my nuclear family.
Yeah.
So through that experience, I learned a lot about who my grandfather was. We had a bunch of family fly in from Monrovia. It was my first time meeting some of my great aunts and things from Liberia. And went through this journey of really just trying to figure out who we were, who my people were, that sort of thing. So Pele Studios was born as a homage to my family, to my grandfather, and to the legacy that he created. And on the doors, you will see, and on my logo, you will see Naba Colon. Those are the words, I know you. My
I
grandfather,
know you.
anyone he met, he would say, I know you. And that became one of his mantras. And everyone, we would always joke whenever we would fake his accent and see my aunt, because he would always say my aunt. I don't think he ever said her name. But my aunt, it's like he adopted my aunt as his own daughter. And so when she would travel home with us, she was my mom's sister and he's my dad's dad. So no relation there. But she would walk through the door. She would say, hey, Pa. Everybody called him Pa. Hey, Pa, how you doing? He said, I know you. I know you. And he would say that to everyone. And that was one of the things that people brought up at his funeral, was he never met a man he didn't know. And my aunt wrote a poem for him in his memoriam, and she named it I Know You. So that kind of has always stuck with me. And so that was a mark I had created with my branding. And so when I opened the studio, I said I have to have that on the doors, so that when people walk through those doors, they are known. They know that they are known, they are loved, they're chosen. And that speaks to me in my life, in my businesses, in my faith. Is I don't want anything I do to be transactional. People are not numbers for me. It's not just like your sign says behind you, Clay, people over profit. And that is so true. If I close the studio doors tomorrow, it would hurt, yes. But I'm okay with it, knowing that people were impacted. And for whatever season that I have that space, I want people to know that there are ways to function in business that don't mean competition, that people can care about each other, whether they're in the same industry or not. I'm here to support other photographers. I'm here to support other business consultants. I'm here to support anyone that crosses my path, and show them that love and show them that I know them, you know. And for me as a woman of color, I know firsthand some of the barriers that we face, and I want to help not just break down those barriers, but be a catalyst for change so that those barriers no longer exist for the next generation. So that's one of the things that I'm always studying and researching, is how do we fix some of the things. A lot of the things we are hearing, especially coming off the back end of Black History Month, is here is the reality of the disparities. And it's like, okay, yes, here are the disparities, but how do we fix them? And so that's where I am moving. But at the end of the day, my doors are open for everyone. But obviously my heart is going to beat loudest for those that feel the things that I have felt, and go through the hardships that I have gone through as a woman and as a woman of color. So that's what I try to be strong about in my branding and my messaging is like, this is a place where you can be safe and feel supported, and it's not transactional. I want to invest in you. Pele Studios is not a money maker for me. It is a community builder.
Will you say it again in your grandfather's native tongue for me? Pele Studios, the I Know You.
Colomb? Oh, Pele Studios. Naba
Yeah.
Colomb.
Naba Colomb. It's beautiful. It is beautiful in its depth, right, in meaning, and then even just in its native language. It was really incredible when you shared that the first time. So thank you for saying it again.
Absolutely.
You, sister, you integrate, like, even as you talked about Pele and your heart for it, like, it just keeps intertwining all of your story, like even starting the businesses, because you're telling the story of your grandfather and when you lost him, because that was prior to, right? If I'm going back, it was prior to COVID hitting, right? So
Yes.
then starting to, okay, so all these pieces, like, again, it's all intertwining together, from Chelsi, do I say Chelsi Denise or Dennis? Chelsi Dennis Co., right, which is the consulting, to Pele Studios, to the photography, to your family story with your grandfather, to your passion, like you are just weaving, I would say integrating all of these, right? They're just together for you. It's really, and you talked about your faith being like, yeah, I don't have to like go even speak, because it just is like, that's just me. Tell me the benefits of living this integrated, like it's all woven together life. Like, what are the benefits of living that way, as opposed to like compartmentalizing and being like, here's my passion here for women, here's my passion here for women of color, here's my business over here, completely separate. Tell me the benefits of weaving all of that together.
Yeah. So like, I continue to be an enigma to a lot of people, and I'm okay with that. Because anytime I get business coaching or even talking to my sister, she's like, okay, but we have to make it make sense. And I'm like, but why? It makes sense to me. And so we live in a society that things are compartmentalized, but I live at the intersection of all of these things. And if I live at the intersection of my life intertwining in all of these ways, other people probably do as well. And I am not looking to fit the bill or the mold of what the world has created as a norm. Not interested at all.
Not your game. Not your game.
We've done that. One, it wasn't built with me in mind. Let's just say that. But we've done it, and it's not working. So why would I continue down that route? There is space. And if there's not space, I'm going to make it.
Come on.
So there is space for me to live at the intersection of all of my identities, in not a way that I am othering myself, but in a way that I'm saying we are complex human beings made by a complex God. And this is how he would call us to live in all of these things, because all of those parts of me matter, or else God would not have put them into creation. He cares about my Blackness. He cares about my womanhood. He cares about my mother, my existence as a mother. He cares about my existence as a wife. So how do all of those things speak to each other? Because I'm not the only Black entrepreneur mother. I'm not the only one.
Right.
So why can't all of those things make sense in a space? And that is the benefit, because I get to flex in whatever season that I am in. Some seasons I am like, all of my creativity is in photography, and I get to thrive in that and not think about the other parts of my business. And then, nobody wants to take pictures when it's 2 degrees outside. And
heck no, that sounds terrible.
Yeah. So that during winter, that's a down season for photography for me. So when it's in down season for photography, I get to shift my creativity into some of the business strategy. And that's natural for me as Q1 starts up. So now I get to feed into people's business and help them plan for the upcoming year. And once Q1 is over and people are in that planning process, hey, it's wedding season. So then I get to shift my creativity that way. And all the while I have Pele Studios in function where people are coming to use the space for birthday parties, for all kinds of events and photo shoots and all of that. That's year round. So it's like, no matter what time of year a part of my businesses will be functioning in full capacity. And I get to shift that. And I love that because then I don't get bored and I don't feel stagnant and I don't feel like, well, what am I supposed to do now, God? Because I'm bored and I'm tired of taking pictures of people and it's cold outside. And for me personally, I have autoimmune diseases. And so I've shifted away from weddings because it takes a toll physically to be on my feet 12 hours a day, running around after people. I walk about 10 miles through a wedding day. And so the last few major weddings I've done, I have been laid up in bed for 2 days after that because I am
Chelsi.
just inflamed and in major pain. And so now, as a mother of two, my kids who are under 2 years old will not be like, okay, mommy, you can sit in the bed because you can't move. We'll just quietly be over here. No, my kids need.
They're gonna go full pterodactyl mode at that point, right?
Come
on now.
Yes. And the oldest one will come and smack me in my face. And so that's not an option. So my business has shifted in this season to only allow for what I can physically do and function in. And that is how I honor my family because my children come first no matter what. So as my life and the demands of my family, my body, my health shift when after I had my daughter and after I had my son, both postpartum journeys, I had severe postpartum depression. So I had to be able to step away and care for myself mentally. And what a lot of people don't talk about is that having a child opens you up to so much spiritual warfare. And it is a battle. It is a battle. And you need to be able to have the support in the community to be able to step away from all the things, work, whatever obligations, and care for yourself, or you will not be in a good place. I have a friend who unfortunately ended up in psychosis and she just got out of the hospital. And it's like, where are the people making sure women have the support that they need to not have to work after they've had a baby, to be able to care for themselves? Because we cannot care for our babies. We as a human race can't continue if the mothers are not cared for. And unfortunately, we live in a society where that community aspect is no longer a norm for when women have children. I just had a podcast episode with my sister, and she explained she's in the Netherlands, and it's the norm there for there to be someone in the home, not just one person, but a ongoing schedule of regular people, women coming in and out of the home to help support the woman's recovery for the first 3 months. That is community. And we've moved away from that. When my grandmother had her babies, there was someone living with them, the whole village living with them and helping with them and helping with the kids for 9 months after a child was born. We live in a country that sends you home 2 days after you have your baby and says, good luck. And there's no one checking on you. And we go from having a checkup every 3 weeks of your pregnancy to
before
you get one 6-week checkup and best of luck. And at that 6 weeks is the hardest part. And so a lot of people have breakdowns that 7th week, that 9th week, that is the most vulnerable part. And so me walking in what I am going through has given me that lens to say, okay, what are the things that I can create, and how can I be a voice to create these different structures to help support women, because they do exist, but they don't exist as a norm. And so that's another part of the things that I constantly am trying to create, whether it's just telling my story. And that was part of me starting my new podcast, and just having other women share what they go through as mothers, as entrepreneurs, as women experiencing all the hardships of postpartum journeys.
First, let me just say thank you for being vulnerable with Michael and I in the recording here, with all of our listeners and viewers. Like, but that's you living out what you talked about a minute ago, right? And we say it is courageous authenticity. Like, it's risking to bring your full self to the moment. You talked about it, like using your own experience to encourage and equip others. And that's what you're doing when you're willing to share, like even the physical challenges you had, the postpartum challenges, all the other dynamics, like that is, and even what I heard you say earlier, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's a vein that almost bringing yourself and sharing all that stories is almost like an act of worship. Cause you're just like, I'm just bringing me, like, and God's calling me to this. God gave me this story. I do have all these roles, identities, but they're just all me. And I'm bringing them fully, completely. And I'm going to risk to the world so that other people can also be encouraged, be equipped to live who they were made to be. And I just, that's gracious of you to share that with us and our listeners. And so I just want to tell you thanks, because it does take courage, because it's a risk, right? It's a risk to let people know us, like the real us.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Yeah. Ooh, Mikey, what you got? You want to follow up on that? Like, as I'm like, Chelsi, you just go take the mic. I'm just going to like mute and hang out for a bit and learn and listen.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it.
What I love about what you just did, Chelsi, was you really highlighted who you are in your integrated self. I'm a mom, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a woman of color. I've got this intersection, and I'm just me showing up in the middle of that. But what I also just heard in some of that are the challenges of living that type of way, which are real. We don't want to ever present this as like this glorious high road that, you know, there's no suffering. It's like, that's the Bible I read says we should expect suffering. And so you're talking about some of those challenges. Let's flip the script and talk about the joy, because it's evident that you have a lot of joy as well. Where does that joy come from for you?
God, easily. So for me, it's just like, and to allude to what you said, there was a sermon last week, and he shared something to the effect of, sometimes we ask for a blessing, but we're not ready for the burden. And on the flip side of that, sometimes we focus on our burdens and we don't see our blessings.
Yeah.
And so for me, yes, I have gone through some pretty traumatizing things, from childbirth to carrying children. I mean, my pregnancies were both high risk, due to my autoimmune diseases. It was traumatic every single time I had to be at the hospital. And I had checkups every other week because of being high risk. So every time I showed up, they told me another thing, that my babies were possibly going to have a heart block and issues with their lungs, and we got to make sure their heart is still beating. Take this monitor home and check it 3 times a day and make sure your baby's heart is still beating. And if it's not, let us know. And it's like, okay, so every single day I have to just wait for a possibility of my baby's heart to stop beating.
So not be beating.
Cool. So yeah, like trauma, right? But I could easily focus on that burden, or I can focus on the fact that I have 2 beautiful children.
Come on.
They are not only just, oh my gosh, my children are so amazing. And I am so happy to be able to steward them through life and see what they become. And every single day, that is my joy. It is my joy to shoulder the burden, so my children don't have to know that this was happening. They get to play. They get to be upset that their mom is gone, because they're not used to their mom being gone to be working outside of the house. They get to have those experiences where it's abnormal for them to be apart from me, you know? That is my joy. My joy is being able to provide for them. My joy is being able to live a life that I get to call the shots, and me and my husband get to decide this is what we want for our family. Right now I'm planning a week-long trip to Kentucky to pack us up and go to Kentucky for the week and go to the Art Covenant and spend some time with my niece is having nationals there. So I get to go and watch her play basketball. And that, for me, on the flip side, that was one of the things that was hard for me. I ended up playing collegiate basketball, and every summer was spent, before college, every summer was spent playing AAU basketball, right? But because my parents couldn't afford to be there in person, they had to work so that I could go. And that was one of the things I noticed. I told my mom when we went to New Orleans for my grandfather's burial. That was the first time I ever stayed in a hotel with my family. And I was like 27 years old. And I said, I don't want that to be the first time I stay with my children. Like, I don't want my children to be 20 something years old. And we've never spent time at something, and that might seem so simple to a lot of people, but it was very impactful for me, because I would have loved to spend that type of, seeing all of my nieces and nephews at the time. I think there were 11 of them. I'm sure people hated us, but for me, it was joyful seeing them in the halls, running around in the hotel, having fun with their family, because they didn't realize they were going to a funeral. They were just like, all my people are in here. It's a party. You know, like, I want to be able to have those experiences with my kids. And so my joy is saying I get to sit down and spend time. You know, we have a appointment to go get some passports for my kids so that I can go to Europe for a year, and not a year. Oh my gosh, a month.
Yeah, I was about to say, hey, tell me that game plan. Tell me how we do that. I want to learn to run the business from Europe. Can you teach me that one? Come on now. Let's go.
But yeah, because of my life, I get to go and say, hey, my sister's in the Netherlands and I miss her, and her kids are growing up and I don't get to see them. So I'm going to take a month and go hang out with my sister, and our kids can be cousins, you know, and I can still work because I can work from, you know, it's a 7-hour difference. But that doesn't matter because of the work that I do. So my joy, not only does it come from God, but it just comes from a place of knowing who I am and whose I am, and knowing that I have been given grace and power to make this life the best it can be. And the Bible says we are going to go through hard times. So if I'm guaranteed a hard time, why in the world would I make it even harder? I could be gone tomorrow. And that was a big part of me leaving my job, was when I die, because it will happen.
Yep.
I don't want a single person at my funeral talking about how hard I worked. Whatever grave I am in, I will turn over. I might just sit up in the casket at that point.
Really mess with some people? Really get it? Yeah.
Right.
What do you want them to say?
Like,
what do you want them to say? What do you want them to say?
If all you can say is how hard I worked, I did something wrong. I want people to say Chelsi impacted people. Chelsi loved people. I want my kids to say our mom enjoyed us. Our mom enjoyed her time with us. She made us feel joy. She made us feel loved. She made us feel seen. She told us that, you know, we can live a full life surrounded by the people who love us, and that we get to choose who those people are. Yes, I work hard, and that's all fine. But I want that to be an anecdote, not the leading story, you know?
Yeah.
I work hard so that I can have joy and that I can enjoy my life, because I really don't care about working to make sure I have a retirement fund. What is the fun of working 80 hours a week when I'm in my 30s? By the time I'm 80, I won't be able to walk because I've worked so hard. I can't even enjoy being old. And that might be the reason I die before I get to 80. So it's like, I just don't subscribe to the lifestyle that we've been told is what we should be reaching for. The whole, I will live today so that I can live like nobody else in my old age, but I'm not going to live like most people now either. Like, I'm going to enjoy myself.
Chelsea, talk to our listener who has a business, right? So they've got a small business too. Maybe they got multiple, maybe they got one. They're a leader there. They're listening to you and they're like, yeah, yes, please. Like, I want that integration. I want to bring yes, because maybe they've had a different lens on it. Okay. But they're hearing you talk about it. And maybe some of that's like the external barriers that you even reference, because maybe there's a woman entrepreneur listening or a woman of color. And so maybe it's external stuff. Maybe it's internal. Maybe their hearts had a different motive for the business, but they hear you and they're like, yeah, yes, girl, I want that. And every scenario is different, but maybe just give them a piece of encouragement. Like, give them something practical in front of them, a way to move towards that. Because you've said in your own thing, it's a journey, right? That was in your intro. You want to walk people on a journey. Give them one practical thing to work in the direction of that joy that's overflowing out of you through the businesses, integrating your life, all of that.
Right. So I never play by the rules. So I'm going to say two things.
Atta girl, come on now, bring them both. Good. Okay, you know what? Brock, bring three things. I take it back. I want three. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, I'll give you three. Listen. But no, two things. One is remind yourself of your why. And if your why is not strong enough, you will not get to that end point. Your why can't be something fickle. It can't be, oh, I just don't want to work full time, because honey, you're gonna work more than full time. At least in the beginning. But
at least in the beginning.
Discover your why and make sure it's strong. Two, in order to get to whatever your end point is, you need to cast that vision and work yourself backwards. So if my end goal, I mean, let's just take something small, right? Let's say I wanted to make $10,000 this month, right? If my end goal is $10,000, I need to start at $10,000 and work my way back on how I ended up getting there. So is that 10 clients at $1,000? If I don't like that, is it 5 clients at 2,000? Is it 3 clients at whatever? You know, like, work yourself backwards for what that end goal looks like. And then you make goals on that way. And from those goals, you have steps, action steps, tactics to get there, to each small bite-sized goal. You eat the elephant one bite at a time, right? And that's what I do with my clients. I sit them down and I say, what is your end goal here? Because if you don't have a goal, where the people don't plan, they perish, right? So
that's right. Where there is no vision. That's right.
What is your vision? What is your goal? And let's work our way backwards. I feel like a lot of people do it the opposite. And they start small to try to work themselves up into an eventual big goal. And because they don't have that end goal in sight, they don't have that drive to make sure that they're ending up at that end goal. They don't have their why. They don't have those smaller goals to attain to get to that bigger one. So that would be my takeaway. I could talk about this for hours, so I'm going to stop myself now.
Remind yourself of your why. And if you don't know it, discover it. I love that little add-in piece you said, like, and that's okay. Because if that's where you are, right, that's where you are. But just take the time and to really, like, spend space there that it's a strong why. Because it's gonna be a piece that will pull you through all of the hard from here to the vision that you just described, that was the second point. Clarify that end vision and then work backwards, thinking about the steps. And I love that you even took us on such a quick process. If I want this end vision of 10K a month, is that 10 at 1? Ooh, 10 client, that's too much. So I'm going to do 5 at 2. Oh, wait a minute, is that 3 at 3 and change? Like, be able to just play that game backwards to figure out, how do I step from here to my clarified future vision that I want? That's gold. Chelsea, where can people find you? because I'm confident after listening to this, they're going to be like, I don't know if I want her for my photography headshots, if I just want to go to Pele to chill and build some community, or if I want some business consulting. I'm confident there are people that, or a combination of all of the above, or just some storytelling time, or to listen to your podcast. Will you tell our listeners where they can find you to find out more about any of the above, please?
So my personal /mom blog, at Raising LeBarre on Instagram, and as well as raisinglebarre.com. That's the best place to find me doing all the things. And then Chelsi Dennis Co. at Chelsi is spelled CHELSI, Dennis Co. On Instagram, as well as at Pele Studios, KPELLE Studios. And then my photography is at Chelsi Dennis Photography. And then I also just started my podcast. I keep forgetting.
I listened to it. I listened to it ahead of time, girl. I loved the first episode.
So
yeah.
Is at Momeo, MOMEO podcast. So that is where I speak about the intersection of motherhood and entrepreneurship. So those are all my things. By the time this airs, there might be 2 more things. Who knows?
They'll find them. They'll get to these things and they'll be pulled in, and they'll find them.
Actually, one of my challenges for this year is not to buy another LLC.
That a girl. You're one of your like self-imposed constraints.
Right. But I am about to buy an S Corp, so that doesn't count.
What about if you take your LLC and file it as an S Corp with the government? Does that count? Does that count? Or is that a girl? Okay.
Everything under one umbrella. I'm working on it,
I got you.
So
I got you.
Technically, I didn't buy another LLC, so I'm still fine. But yes, that is where to find me on all the things. I am not a curated feed type of person. I do that for my clients. I don't have the time or energy to do that for myself. So you will get real raw, just like you're getting here. I don't change.
Authentic.
I am who I am, no matter
it's
what
authentic.
I'm in. So I like to say I get ratchet for Jesus. So it's real raw. I will dance, I will sing, I will play, I will pray. And so you'll get a little bit of all of it. You'll get my toddler throwing diapers at me. All the things.
Come on. That's the game. Well, it's real life. And I think that's been my experience getting to hang with you for a little bit today. And I know it will be for our viewers and listeners too. So thank you. I'm confident this is just you. You're just bringing it. And that's what I love. And it's what I admire. And like you're leading me that way. So just know that. Very, very encouraging. And thank you for your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And one of the things we love to do is close the episodes with a verse that kind of was a little inspiration. And this verse has joy in it, which I think is very applicable. It's very applicable to you and the experience of being able to spend time with you today. So it's Galatians 5, talking about the fruit of the Spirit. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. And against all of these things, there is no law. And so, Chelsi, thank you for your time today. To all of our listeners and viewers, thank you for joining us. And until next week, choose life.
Thanks for tuning into our show. If you want to learn more about how you can integrate your faith into your business, download our integrated business guide for free by clicking the link in the show notes below. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.